to the Austin Moss Show. Today's episode, it's one of those conversations that I generally care about personally, not because it's trendy, not because it's tactful, not because it's, just kind of out there, but it's just real, right? And we're talking about sobriety, but not in the way most people talk about it. We're really talking about identity, about the brain, about purpose. And what we're talking about actually changes when somebody has the ability to basically like rewire their life from the inside, right? And so a lot of people listening to this, there's a lot of founders, athletes, operators, leaders, college students, all kinds of people. And just don't let the pressure kind of go there. And so I love that we have Alex on here. Alex has a long tenure in the sober community and working from a different perspective, a little more from the neuro side. And so he's a sober life coach. He's the CEO of Sober Reset. And he uses neuroscience tools, and I'll let him talk about that, about, how quitting drinking, and him and I've talked about this, we've talked prior to this episode, and, about how that looks. And so, Alex, welcome to the show. Glad you're on. And introduce yourself for everyone. And kind of maybe, I think what would be really cool is maybe bring people back to, you'd mentioned Chicago and kind of, that wintry part of your life. And let's maybe start there and then kind of, bring us up to where we're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me, Austin. I'm a fan of the show. I've been watching it, and I get a lot out of it. I think you hit a wide variety of people in the community here. So thank you for doing this, and thanks for having me. My name's Alex, and I'll take you quickly back to the beginning of my story, which involved alcohol, right? So I struggled with alcohol for about 17 years, and to the point where I was actually homeless in Chicago, Illinois for a year and a half. Now part of my story is cross addiction. So it wasn't just alcohol for me, but when it comes to neuroscience and in the addiction, it doesn't really matter. The same stuff's going on in the brain, but for me, it was drugs and alcohol, and I was homeless for about a year and a half in Chicago during COVID. That was strange. I didn't even believe it was real for like 8 months because I thought it was like a trick being played on me. Um, but yeah, but I was in psychosis for about 8 months, and that was, like that's a whole thing in and of itself. That's where I was physically there, but mentally just gone. Like living in a different reality almost. But yeah, and I got sober about 5 years ago, and I've been to rehab, several times, and traditional means of getting sober, they help me get sober, but not stay sober, if that makes sense,
Mhm.
right? Like I needed
Maybe
additional
dive
help.
into that. What was that? What do you mean for, like, what does that mean
Yeah,
specific? Like, what were those kind of attributes that kept happening, I guess, because it seemed like a
yeah,
theme, or it seemed like a theme of some sort, right?
yeah, yeah. Because like I would get sober for 6 months and then I would relapse, and same old patterns, same old habits. And the thing that was repetitive for me was emotional intelligence. I lacked it. I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't know what it meant to manage your emotions. I didn't understand how to cancel negative self talk. So like I was so negative towards myself, so negative. And that's, I mean, we're already battling an uphill we're already going an uphill battle by trying to become less addicted to something or not addicted at all. And but when we're battling ourselves, it's even worse. So that was another thing. And then also just my habits. Like I needed to understand more about habits, and those three things I was not getting any help through traditional means of getting sober. They would talk a little bit about habits at rehab, and not much about emotional intelligence or rewriting the subconscious mindset or anything like that at AA. And look, but some people at AA, they get that, and that's amazing. It's just the community that I was in, it wasn't working for me. I needed additional help.
Got it. So bring us fast forward now. So what for you, I think there's twofold here, right? You've taken that, you know, issue or that what was in your life that you felt like you could overcome, and now you can kind of be a light to that to other people and help them through that from, maybe other people that had that same little nuance that
Yeah.
you maybe were dealing with as well, right? So, but bring us from so so there's a lot of time in there, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into some of this, but I think it'd be good for everyone to just kind of hear like what was that pivot point that you eventually did, hit home with you, right? And
Yeah.
whether it's that specific verbiage or that specific scenario, or it could be timing to sometimes too, right? But like
Yeah.
maybe what did that look for you of, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, and then what changed there that like, and then how does that then relate to you being a sober life coach, and how are you
Yeah.
using that, right?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So the turning point for me was when I went into rehab for the fifth time. It was the only time that I checked myself in. Other times I went for other people and other reasons, and so I think that had something to do with it. But the big thing was my sister gifted me a book, and it was called "Think Like a Monk" by Jay Shetty. And I'd never heard of him. I'd never heard of anything about him. I didn't know. But I sat down and I read the book in rehab, and that book changed my life, like 100%. It opened up my eyes to other ways to get and stay sober. It has nothing to do with sobriety. The book has nothing to do with sobriety. It's all about the the monk mindset, because he was a monk for 3 years. And he was basically teaching people at home how to adopt and adapt to a monk mindset. And for the first time in my life, my mind was open to that. And I said, this guy's onto something, because I did the tools in the book. It's like a workbook. It's not just a regular book. It has like tools in it. And that I really found that helpful. And I did them, and they worked when nothing else did. For the emotional intelligence to help grow that, for the negative self-talk, and then for the habits, the three things that I was pointing out earlier. And I was like, this guy's onto something. I've never heard of him. I don't know who he is. So I started following him. I found out he had his own. He was a life coach, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And then I found out he had his own school, and I was like, that's where I want to go. And from that point on, it was just like. Like the racing, the horse racing goggles, right? Like I was just
The
zeroed in.
blinders. You had your blinders on. Yeah.
Like it was just like I was just zeroed in, and there was nothing that was gonna stop me. But it was because I found something that worked for me. And I think that's what I want to kind of challenge the most is beyond the traditional ways to get sober. There's so many ways to get sober. I believe you just have to find what's right for you and what you need. And that's just my own belief, right?
No, I
Yeah,
would say I 100% agree with you on that regard. I mean, I think that goes for anything, whether it's getting sober or starting a business or having a family or kids or any of these things. It's like no, there's no one size fits all for
right,
anything or ever, and it's
right,
even like it's funny when you look at that kind of stuff because timing changes too. You could have the exact same makeup of everything and it be a different day, and
oh, for sure,
it's a completely different result. So
yeah,
I don't get, I try to help people with that too, and I've had to learn it myself of like, you can't get hung up on you can't get hung up on every single detail of how it's going to look or how it's going to work. It's just like, it worked,
yeah,
I figured it out.
yeah,
Now, it's nice to kind of know, maybe
yeah,
what that was. And you start learning that, right? And then that gives you the space to kind of bridge into that. But to pigeonhole a solution, I really don't like that. And so I love that you say that, that for you, with Jay, and Jay's an amazing guy. I've been following Jay for a while now
yeah,
too. And, he really does have that ability to help people understand it's just in your head. It's a lot of the mindset. It's really,
yeah,
they say that, and you hear that year over year over year, and you hear that everywhere. But that it's not 98% attitude, 2% action, and
yeah,
the longer I get in and around business and recovery and just life, the more that rings true. So.
yeah. Totally
So,
agree.
so what was it from Jay's courses and classes that you think changed? Because it's not like you hadn't heard about um, those habits and all these things, right? I mean, you even said it like. So, what do you think was different? Was it
Yeah,
do you think it was you? Because I think a lot of times it's not necessarily the information, right? I think about it in playing sports and basketball, right? Like my parents could tell me the same thing that some random
Oh yeah, and
coach
it
at a
means
camp
something
told
different.
me, and I would be like, revolutionary information, and I've been being told it for
Yeah,
30,
yeah,
30 different
yeah,
times by 30 different people, and it
yeah,
just took whatever it was, the timing of it or whatever. So what was that for you
yeah.
in that J moment?
So it's all about perspective, right? Like that's like it's just the moment in time that we hear the information and hopefully it clicks. But for me, it was a combination of things. I had never heard this information before. Like so it was new information to me. Like the neuroscience behind why we do what we do. Like that was something I never studied. That I just never understood the nervous system or the brain. So that was one thing. Maybe I had, but to my knowledge, I hadn't. So that was one thing that was new. But something that Jay is very good at is he takes complex situations and make them like easily understood, like very clear and very concise. And he places everything with intention, like everything with intention. So I actually worked for Jay for 3.5 years. I worked at a school while launching my coaching business. So I wasn't super close with him, but I saw him close enough that I realized everything he does is with intention, like every little thing, right? And when you do it with intention, it's like
What is
focus.
that? Let's look at that. I'm curious, just personally as
Yeah,
myself, but what does
yeah,
that look like? What does
yeah,
that look like in him that you've seen? What does that makeup look like?
yeah, yeah. No, that's
To be
awesome. I love
what
it.
does that look like to be intentional as Jay Shatty?
Yeah, yeah. So he gets up and hopefully this is okay to say, but he gets up like every day, and he like meditates for like at least 2 hours a day, and during that meditation, he is like so intentional about his day, like what is he going to do, why is he taking that action, and what does he hope to get out of it, and then he visualizes about it. So like, and then he's mindful throughout the whole day, so he's extremely present. And I've seen him, like I've met him several times, and face to face, obviously on we were on meetings together, but face to face, and his presence never changes. It's so powerful. And I'm sure you have people in that, like in your life, like that, right? Or like they just walk in and you can just feel their presence. It's just insane.
I call them savants. They're just
Yes.
yeah, they
Yeah.
just take over. Yeah, and they're no, it's not. There's no ego in it either. It's to be
No,
able to be
there
able to
can't be.
to be able to grab that attention with almost the reverse of ego
Yeah, the
is pretty
humbleness.
powerful. And that's
Yeah.
what I've always respected so much about Jay is that right there is that he can grab attention without needing to be anything,
Yeah. Yep.
and so I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Um, no, that's interesting. What else does that look like for him, like in intentionality and
Yeah.
with like his teams, right?
Yeah.
His leadership and his team and partners. What does that look like with his partners and his guests? I'm
Yep.
sure that like with his guests that come on and the people he works with, the intentionality, oozes out into that. And I'm
Yeah.
curious what that looks like if you're able to get
So
a.
I wasn't involved with the podcast, unfortunately. I was just involved with the life coaching school, and he keeps his businesses very separate, which is like smart, right? So I was more involved with like the coaching school, right? Which was his baby. That was like his first big thing. It's like almost 6 years old, right?
Okay.
So it's been around a while, longer than the
Hmm.
podcast and stuff like that. So I can tell you what intention means there. Um, every meeting that he showed up to, it's just like fully present, mindful. I'm studying MBSR right now, so mindful's coming up a lot for me right now. Mindfulness.
What is that? You
So
said MB
mindfulness-based stress reduction. So it's
MBSR.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
MBSR. So mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's like the intersection of it's non-secular, okay, but it's using secular practices like meditation and mindfulness that have been known to be used in secular uses, but using them non-secularly for stress reduction. That's the best way to describe it.
Mm.
So it's all science backed, which is what
Right.
I love, right?
Right.
It's all based on science. But yeah, so that comes up for me because so he's extremely present, right? Like there's nothing when you talk to him, it feels like there's nothing else in the world that he's thinking about, that he's wondering about. He's directly focused on you. And when he does his meet and greets, everybody says that. Like
Hmm.
he's so present, you know. And you feel that. Like that's part of that present. That's part of that power that he has. I think that's it. I think that really is it. It's the key to being present. And being fully there, represented, not off thinking, wondering something. Like he's focused on you, and you feel that. You know,
Hmm. Yeah. No, I love
makes you
that.
feel
So
special. You know.
yeah. No, so you had a good, you kind of got fortunate being in that scenario, and then you zoom out and you move into, you kind of got your feet under you, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
And so talk us through what that looked like, making that shift from being involved at that to going and starting your own company, right?
Yeah.
From an entrepreneurial, uh, all the stuff that comes
Yeah.
with that, right?
Yeah.
Walk us through like kind of where was your head at, in those just, one initially getting sober, right? And
Yeah.
trying to navigate, but then I think there's two phases of that, right? Initially getting sober, eventually getting into Jay's courses in school and learning there. But then you had another phase two where it's kind of like you jumped into entrepreneurship
Yeah.
and
It's insane.
so I want to dive into that. What did that
Yeah.
look like from the entrepreneurship
Yeah.
jump, and what does that look like today? And
Yeah.
maybe what have you learned?
Yeah.
What are a few things you learned through that process
Yeah.
that
Um,
you're like, man, if I, and then those are always the things like, what if I always think like there's those handful of things you're like, if I would have known that just a little, like, a year ago or 2 years ago, like that was so big, you have a realization,
yeah.
right? Those kind of moments, that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah. Um, First off, like the thing that comes up first here is like, um, when you start a business, no matter what insecurity you have, it comes up. I don't care how unrelated it is, it will come up when you start a business. Like that's just what happens. And that was a whole experience for me. Like because and I think it might be for every sober entrepreneur, right? Like just because we're just relearning ourselves again, and then we go and start a business, so all of our insecurities come up. So that was big for me. Like things that I didn't even know were connected, right? Like things that were bothering me in my relationship with my partner would come up in business, and I'm like, how the heck did this happen, right? So it really helped me raise my awareness around like everything that's going on in my life and how it all is interconnected. But to go back a little bit, so I worked at Jay. I worked at his school for close to 4 years, and that ended just about a month ago. So started my business at the same time, pretty much. So I was a full time coach for about a year after I went through school, and then I got hired there. And so then that was about or a little under 4 years, and then and now I'm here. So like this is really this. It's the second time in my life where I'm going full force on the business. I didn't know that I thought it would only be one time, right? I didn't know I was going to work for Jay. Like it just wasn't in the cards. I wasn't thinking that. But I did a testimonial for the school, and they saw it, and then they asked me to apply for this job, and then I had to work for it and all that. But yeah, so I'm just getting back into it. So all the insecurities are coming back up. So this is a really fresh question for me.
Good. Well,
um,
maybe we'll just do some live coaching stuff
I
here
know,
then,
right?
hey?
Exactly.
So talk us through it. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's very relevant for the audience, right? I mean, the most fresh. I mean, you're going through it right now, right?
yeah,
There's people on here that would love to start a business. There's people on here that would not want anything to do with the business, right?
yeah, yeah,
And it's funny. I have brothers that are kind of both, growing up. The ones that are like they just want the conservative, easy 8 to 5. I don't want any
yeah,
unpredictability. And then you have the complete opposite, like us, where it's like we're crazy, insane, and like just
yeah,
chaotic, but we're trying
yeah,
to do something bigger, right? And that's
yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, yeah. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Um, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think it's all about purpose, right? It's just like where you find your purpose. But for me, like I'll get very fresh and transparent with you guys. So like in my relationship, I struggle with like trust issues, like insecurities around trust, right? And this never would have come up had it not been for stuff going on in my business. And the connection that I've made is, and like through coaching and through therapy, is self trust. It has to do with my own trust in what I'm saying and what I'm doing and what I'm building and what I decide for a paid ads, how much money I spend. Like it's trust everything. So that's what I mean by, like, something comes up in the business and then boom, it triggers this much deeper seated insecurity in me, and now it's causing problems in my relationship. So it's just really interesting how that happens. But that's exactly what happened, right? Is the self trust, and then and questioning everything, like overthinking, making sure that I'm making the right decisions, and then do I trust my instinct, trying to listen to what my intuition is versus what the right decision should be. All that is what I struggle with probably the most right now.
Got
Just
it.
the overthinking, and that's just caring about a business. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everybody kind of overthinks certain decisions
100%.
for their
Yeah.
business.
I mean, even just last night, my brain was going, 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 and trying to
Yeah,
take a melatonin and get out, knock myself
yeah,
out early and get that brain to stop. Right. But no, I mean, I think it's exciting. You have that fire, and,
yeah,
it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You got that fire, and that helps keep you moving. But all I'll say at the end of this whole thing is you're moving, right? So at least you have the chance to pivot. You have the chance to learn. You have the chance, right?
right.
If the and it's not that somebody who's an employee moving into being an entrepreneur or a founder or CEO isn't, like, it's not an intelligence thing,
Yeah,
right? Like, it's
yeah,
truly not an intelligence thing. It's truly a mindset and a
yeah,
willingness to be able to honestly eat shit for a little bit,
yeah, yeah. Learn how
and
to
be
fail.
uncomfortable, not
Yeah,
know, right? Not know what's going to happen. And it's all part of the process, though, right? Like, your
yeah,
benefit to everybody going through these kind of things right now is going to help so many people, right? But you have to have lived it.
yeah.
and
Oh
and
yeah,
that's where I love with you of being, like, kind of on the life coach side, is like you've lived through these things versus just stepping out of it and just say, I want to do this thing, right? And so I
and
love that you've
studying
lived
it.
through a lot
Yeah,
of it, and you have that backing to, like, it's not theory, right?
yeah,
It's I've lived it. I can speak to it. I can sit with you with that. And maybe I don't have all the solutions, but at least I understand where you're coming from
yeah,
to a degree of some sort, right? So
yeah,
what's that? So what are your thoughts on that? I mean,
yeah,
getting out of that, I have ideas, but um, I think I'm just trying to think through what, the scenarios when I've had those kind of same thoughts, because I've had those same thoughts. I mean,
yeah,
imposter syndrome,
yeah,
mistrust, and that's the hard thing too. I mean, I've had a lot of partners, and trust is the biggest thing. And every year I stay in business and work with founders and work with employees and partners, it's like that's all there is, really. At
yeah,
the end of it, it's like,
yeah.
from the enjoyment of it, from the where we're going, what we're doing, what we care about, like,
Right,
it's pretty, it's just yeah, it's simple once you figure it out. Once you figure
yeah,
out that it's not as hard as you're making it to be,
right,
and that it's not as stressful, and that there's always going to be opportunities to pivot, right?
yeah.
And it's just, if you're not trying, that's the scariest part, right? If you're
That's
trying,
the
there's
problem.
always a
Yeah,
chance, there's always hope, there's always, like, that's why I was like, I'm so happy for you that you're able to recognize. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to keep somebody who would be in your same shoes, but then be stalled out for the next 5 years or
yeah,
10 years, or quit or get
yeah,
burnout and go back and get a job because they just, out of fear, out of, sometimes it's just external things that keep hitting you when you're trying to
hmm,
do something big,
yeah,
right? And it's knowing that that's going to happen. One, recognizing that those things will come at you more and more and more and more, the bigger you try to make moves,
right,
right?
right,
And it's just the world, it's people, it's everything, right? And
yeah,
so, but if you just keep pushing through it, that's why I tell my teams, it's like, guys, girls, like, we will, whatever this is, project we're working on, whatever we're working on, as long as we don't be bad people and do weird stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And as long as we don't quit and we're constantly in communication, everything works out, right?
yeah,
Now, it may not work out how we thought it was going to work out, but it's going to work out
yeah, yeah,
in general, right? So No, I love that you're open with that. I really appreciate that.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, you're willing to talk about that.
Oh yeah, it has
Um,
to, man. Like otherwise, it's gonna keep me stuck, right? Like, so in saying it out loud, I know the answers for myself because I've studied it. If I wouldn't have said that out loud, then I didn't, I'm not aware of it. Like awareness is everything. So like I'm always open in every conversation I have because I know I'm learning more about myself and the other person.
mm,
But one thing that came up in what you were just saying is with trust. This is a big one for me, and I know people relate with this. How about delegating your work that you, as an owner and entrepreneur, you know that you know how to do, but you don't trust other people to do it yet, right? Like sales or
yeah.
marketing. Oh, sorry, like sales, right? And or like yeah, just everything. Just delegating work and trusting that first person to do it the way that that you want to do it. Maybe it's unrealistic to do that, or I don't know. But that's something that is currently bugging me now too. Like trusting other people with the work and hoping that they do it to the level that I want it to be done. You know?
Yeah, and I think it's twofold, right? Hire fast, fire faster, I would
Yeah.
say is one thing. That's something that, looking at that scenario, a lot of people will hold on to somebody they think is
Right.
there. And I get it. You want to give somebody a chance to a degree, but if you see so quickly that it's not working, it's better for all parties to
Yeah.
just part ways, right? So I think there's one thing there. But if you do have talented people, it's a little bit back to me, right? I'm putting myself in those shoes of, those times when I was wanting to hold so tight onto everything that because I felt like I knew what was best,
Yeah. Trying to
and
control
honestly,
everything, right?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, when you're an entrepreneur, you care the most, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
that's
Nobody
true.
cares more about your business
Right.
than
So
you.
if you care the most, typically you'll put the most effort in, and then you'll obviously get better results than others. Okay. So there is a degree of like, if I do this, it's going to turn out better.
Yes.
But you're also capping everything in your life.
Yes.
So it depends on what you want. If you want to have limitations on a lot of areas in your life and you're okay doing all the work and you don't really care to bring other people along your journey
Yeah.
and your vision, then there's a place for that. But if
Yeah.
you have different goals and ambitions to be able to bring people along the journey with you, I think you just have to think about it as that.
Yeah.
How if I'm going to be bringing these people along the journey with me, I don't want to be doing all this
Yeah.
stuff the way that I want to do it
Right.
forever. I
Right.
want them to own it. And the
Right.
more I give them to own, better they get. The
Yeah.
more they care, the more they feel it's theirs, right? And
Yeah.
it truly is theirs at that
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of have to, it's a fear. It's truly
Yeah.
a fear that it's going to make you look the wrong way, they're going to mess something up, or it's going
Yeah.
to take too long, or whatever it is, it's all fear. But you got to get past that because
Yeah.
there's so much more available once you empower people around you, right? So
Yeah.
that I don't know on my soapbox, but
No, no,
I've just
that's
seen
no,
that.
that's
I've
good.
seen that way too much. I've seen it too
Yeah.
much to not know that it's very much around that. It's very much around fear. It's not around incompetency.
Yeah.
If anything, you're more incompetent because you're not letting experts do the work.
Right.
You're
Right.
more, a competent person would recognize and be aware enough to know,
Right.
like, no, I am terrible at web design, but one of our guys on our team, Jaden, he's amazing at web
Yeah.
design and it just crushes it and just like thinks completely like that. So like I'm incompetent if I am not giving everything that I can over to him that he can handle.
Right.
Right. And it wasn't like that originally. Initially, I had to test it, right? You have to test. You can't be blindly
Oh yeah.
throwing stuff out there. You're still the person that has to be responsible for the business. And, so you have to have a litmus on it. But having a litmus and communication and allowing people to do stuff and mess up. And I think there's just so much coming to me on this. The one other little thing I say to people, I'm like, you're going to get 20% of your stuff wrong all the time. That's
Oh
fine.
yeah.
I just want you to be trying. I
Yeah.
want you to be learning. I want you to be coming to me with that stuff. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. I want you to be coming with me. Don't be afraid to come to me with stuff that you feel is like something you should already know.
Right.
I don't care, right? And
Yeah.
so I think you just have to have that relationship, and and it's rare. I know, like I've
Yeah.
worked for a lot of people, and
The
I
mindset.
never found that working for other people
Yeah,
myself
it's an
personally.
empowering mindset. Like you have to switch everything in order to view things like that and to empower people to be their best self. Like hearing that right now, like if I was your employee, like that at least it gives it me a chance, right? Like you're giving me a chance to perform the best that I can. Other ways, like it feels so defeating when you do something wrong. But like it's a whole mindset. Like it's a perception and a perspective thing. I think like
Yeah,
failing forward. You have to learn how to do that. There's everybody knows that owns a business.
yeah.
You have to learn how to
I
fail
want.
forward. The only reason they're successful is because they failed so many times.
So I want to go completely off topic.
Yeah,
I want to go back to Chicago.
yeah,
If you're cool going back to
yeah,
that, I think it's been
yeah.
long enough. What kind of stuff happened? Like what kept you in it
Boy,
for like with the
yeah.
homelessness stuff, right? What's the craziest thing I guess that happened there that you're just like, I can't believe that I'm here.
Oh yeah. I mean, every day, like so. The most difficult thing for me, and this is not to make light of mental health, because I was seriously in it, but like so just imagine this, okay? So I was doing stimulants at the time, so it was an upper, very strong upper. And when you do too much, it makes you feel like it could get you into something called psychosis, which is like you're literally there physically, but you're living in a different reality mentally. Like you have your own rules, you have in like you've told yourself certain things so many times that you believe them. Like so I believed that and again, just imagine this, like the streets were there's nobody in the streets because it was during COVID, during in Chicago. I had like the whole city to myself, I felt like. And it felt like I was on like a TV show, like the Truman Show. Because I was just like wandering around for weeks, not seeing anybody, right? Because nobody was going out, right? Like it was insane. It was like and looking back on it, I was like, wow, that's insane. Because then I was in psychosis, and I was like believing this to be true. And the thing with psychosis is, or with the brain, period, it's confirmation bias. So like if I buy a red car, all of a sudden I see tons of red cars. It's not because there's more red cars, it's because I'm aware of them now because I bought one, right? So I would make up stuff in my head, and then I would look for it to be true, and I'd see one shred of evidence, like 1% true, and it would immediately connect in my brain that it's true. The whole thing's true.
Mm.
So every day when you're not interacting with people and you're just by yourself, every day that compounds. And all of a sudden, after a year, you're in a completely different mindset. Like it's just 'cause you have no social interaction. You're only talking to yourself, and you're still doing these drugs that are making you feel that like it's insane, man. It's literally insanity. And
Hmm.
that's like I was talking to myself and like the whole 9 yards because of this. And but that was the yeah. I mean, it was. I say it like it's kind of funny now, but it's not. It wasn't funny at the time, right? Like, I was like just living in a different world. Like it felt like a video
Hmm.
game, like it
Yeah.
just really did. And I would climb on top of rooftops in downtown Chicago. Like one of the tallest buildings, I got all the way to the top of the building and got on the roof, like the roof, like it's I won't say
Which
which
one is
building.
that? Is that
It,
which one
it's
is it? No,
not the new one.
the
No, it's one of no one of the new ones, but it's
okay,
like
okay.
it's really unique. It's not the St. Regis.
Okay.
But
Sorry to interrupt.
it's
Yeah, so I want to hear this. So
yeah.
you
So
went to the
I
top of
climbed to
these
the top
Chicago
of
buildings.
it, and I was like, not just on the roof section. Like again, just insanity. I got on top of like not the air conditioning units, whatever the huge units with the fans on top, and there was no rails, no nothing, and I was just up there. Like, and it was like snowing or raining or something, and I was just like, like in a different world. Like it's I would never ever do that. Like I just found myself doing things that I would never do. I was jumping
Hmm.
from rooftop to rooftop, putting myself in like extreme danger because I thought I was in a video game. Like it was insane. It was insanity, man. Like just crazy. And I got into legal trouble and like trespassing and stuff like that. But I say all of this uh, to help realize that like you can damage the brain pretty badly, but it can still, like, everything that you learn that's a bad habit, you can relearn it into a newer habit, into something else, or you can unlearn it. Like, I had so many bad habits that when I quit everything, I had to quit them all at once. That's the hardest part, is changing all these habits all at once when you quit drinking or quit doing something that's a bad habit. Like, and that's what I tell my clients. If they stay sober, like, they sign up for my program, and then they stay sober and they're not happy, but it's like, dude, you signed up for this program to be sober. Like, that has to be enough for some days. Like, you just, the fact that you're sober today has to be enough sometimes. Because
nobody
you're
guaranteed us any
happiness.
We were never guaranteed any happiness, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
no, I never, and so now, granted, there are times, a lot of happy times and sad times and things like that, but I think it's sitting in the middle and just being content. Like,
Yeah.
you can get to that. But yeah, it doesn't even, and to your point on the psychosis, and that's crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
I just picture you at the Deadpool
Yeah.
jumping from
Yeah. Yeah,
from
exactly.
building to building in Chicago
Yeah.
or something. But
Yeah.
that's funny.
Yeah.
But no, I think that happens with or without drugs. I think the mental obsession, the mental tricks, all the trickery that your brain plays on you, that the world just like, I think what you'd mentioned there, I just needed 1% of it to be true for me to accept 100% of it to be true.
That's with or without drugs.
It's so blinding, right? And it's like, you don't know you're in it, because it's a lot of times that whoever's in it isn't talking about their life to a lot of people deeply. So that's why it's trickery. It's because it's like, that's why books have always been so big. Like, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Kiyosaki when I was 17. Like, that was my first book. And ever since then, I heard people talk about books and about how, like, and podcasts weren't, I mean, I'm aging myself, geez. But like podcasts,
They weren't around.
It's my birthday's actually in 4 days. I'm turning 37.
Mine was like 10 or 12 days ago, 13 days ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, happy birthday.
Yeah,
Happy
thank
birthday.
you. You too, man.
Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you. February. It's Pisces, huh? Right?
I'm Aquarius, the beginning of February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I won't hold that against you.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I lost my train of thought there.
Sorry.
But yeah, let's dive in. I want to hear. I want to hear about like what you're doing now from the neuro side of things. And I want to dive into more of.
Yeah.
We haven't touched on that. I've been wanting to touch on that. Of where did that come about? Right, from the neuro. I mean, there's so many ways to attack and address positive change in coaching and helping people. Right. So walk me through how you came into it from a neuro standpoint, and then what have you learned since then from the brain and the correlation of the brain to some of these things?
It's insane, man. Like the brain and the nervous system are like, they're core to any development. Now that I know what I know, like, I can't imagine not knowing it, and I can't imagine coaching without it. Like, it's like, how did I ever coach without it? And understanding it. So I was introduced to neuroscience at Jay's program, actually in the book. Just very briefly, like, he doesn't talk about it, but the tools that he had, they worked, and they worked for some reason. It's because they followed how the nervous system and the brain worked, right? So I'm sure he met with neuroscientists, or he developed these tools, or somebody else developed them, and he borrowed them, whatever. But either way, there's intention behind them, right? Like, so I started meeting with neuroscientists, or I started getting into neuroscience, and I was like, okay, this is not what I thought it was. Like, when I took an intro class to neuroscience, like, it's about how the body produces electricity, essentially. Like, I was like, this isn't what I thought, right? It was very uninteresting, but once you get to the more advanced things, that still is interesting. But once you get to the more advanced things, it's like really interesting. So I wanted to get to that. Right, quickly. So I started meeting with neuroscientists, and I met them through Jay's program. I met them through online, through Facebook, through LinkedIn, and I started meeting with them. And I said, look, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't know how this all worked, but this is what I did, Can you tell me why it worked? And they basically wrote down and said, this is why this worked. And then they suggested, this is what we think you should replace it with, or this is what we think you should do. So I basically met with neuroscientists to develop tools that rewrite the subconscious mind. I didn't know this at the time, but it rewrites the subconscious mind to cancel negative self-talk, to eliminate cravings completely, right? So that deals with like hypnosis, you know, that works for, it's the same stuff. It rewrites the subconscious mind. And cancel negative self-talk, which I talked about, and then the habits. So I learned habits through the program. You know, the 4 stages of them. Atomic Habits is one of my favorite books, of course. So I had that down, but I needed to learn how to rewrite the subconscious mind, and that's what I learned through the neuroscientists. So the number one tool that I have is a 5-step morning routine, and this thing absolutely kills. Like, it kills. You do it once or twice, you'll see a difference. Like, it just, it's insane. So I'll share it.
I was gonna say what.
Yeah,
what is it? Yeah.
But I'm going to share a video that explains it in depth, because you need to understand like what it's doing to the brain in order for it to work the best. And then I'll include a PDF in the notes for the show. But
okay. Yeah.
First step,
I can do that.
The first step is the emotional dump. Okay, so you get out everything negative. It's called the emo dump. That's what I call it. So wake up and you take an emo dump. So you get out everything negative in your life, everything that is producing anger, everything that's frustrating, everything that you feel sorry about, that just everything negative, okay? Because humans have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative. And separately, 80% of them are repetitive. So most of the thoughts that we have are negative and repetitive. So we have to get them out right away, right? Now, the reason why you want to write it down is, if let's say that you have trouble sleeping at night and you're thinking about what you need to do the next day, the reason why they tell you to go make a list of what you're thinking about or go write down what you're thinking about is because it tricks the brain into forgetting about it because you wrote it down somewhere. So it's the same thing here. You're writing down everything negative to trick the brain to forget about it. Now that you have the negative out, you have to replace it with something positive. So the second step is a 2-step process. It's a gratitude book, or gratitude list. Very simple, but I challenge people to think of something that only they have. Okay, so you're gonna have to start finding something that you're grateful for, rather than just thinking about what you're grateful for. That's the
instead
point.
of just like I have a.
Process.
So instead of just I have a roof over my head, or for your case, I don't have a roof. For you, I have buildings to jump across. No,
yeah, exactly.
Something
very
unique.
specific
So like,
to you.
yeah. So yeah, okay, I got that. Got it.
Because that is the rewiring process that gratitude actually holds. Like when you have to actively go and seek out what you're grateful for, that's the reframing. That's that's it itself, right? So the more that you do that, the more that you train your brain to do that, then the easier it becomes to do, right? So
makes sense.
Second step of the second one is brag book. So if you struggle with self-love or self-worth, then brag on yourself a little bit. This will.
How do you know? How do you know? How do you know if you struggle with self-love or?
That's a great question. So I usually know because I just do this with my clients. I usually can tell right away. Like, I mean, if they're not treating their body well, you probably struggle with self-love and you know what I mean? Like if you're drinking too much, you probably struggle with it. So I guess I shouldn't. I do assume, but I shouldn't. But how do you know if you struggle with self-love? If you, and this is with any addiction, like, and I have people asking me about video gaming addictions, right? And they say, you know, and what I ask them is, why do you play? Do you play to avoid life, or do you play to have fun? Right? Like, if you're playing to avoid life, then that's a problem, in my opinion, right? So like, if you're drinking, if you're doing something to avoid life or avoid your emotions, then that you probably have a self-love, self-worth problem. That would be.
Gosh, I've never heard it put that way. Say that again, because I think that is so core to, and that covers so many scenarios.
So if you have to ask yourself why you're doing it, right? If you're doing it just to have fun, not to say that just doing it at fun can't turn into addiction. It can, but if you're just doing it for fun versus why are you doing it? So if you're doing it to cover up some of your life, like whether it's emotions or dealing with life, or you're covering up like whatever it is, right? You're covering up your life. then that's a problem, right?
Yeah, and I think it's so simple as that, it's just, are you going, like, check it like a checkup, right? Before
Yeah,
you're going into these new environments and scenarios, is like, or just things that you feel aren't, you don't know, you're confused about them, right? Is just kind of check that pulse
yeah,
of those two things. Which lane am I in,
yeah.
right? Is this,
And it can be
am I
as easy as
truly
stress.
am I truly at peace and content and able to move forward and just like, and this is a fun thing? Or is this a cycling
Yeah.
thing where I need to avoid, right? And I
Yep.
just want to get away from things and life, and you're not happy. I mean, and you're not happy. And so I love all the points so far. So we got number
Yeah.
one,
Yeah. And number two,
number
but just real
two.
quick on that, I think it's
Yep.
important that even just stress. So like if you're drinking, if you're doing something to alleviate stress, that's not good, right? You're relying on something to relieve stress. That's not healthy for you. So I just want to point that out. Step three. Okay, this is a little bit of a long one, but I'll make it quick. So step three is called a life plan. Okay, and I have a template that I made with neuroscientists that is specifically laid out point like word by word, and then you answer 6 questions, and then you plug in your answers into this template. So it's like one big long affirmation. Okay, and you say it every single morning, 3 times out loud. Okay, this will help rewrite the subconscious mind, and then you do it 3 times internally. And this will also, so there's a 3-step process to become something. If you want to become something in life, and I'll give you an example, you have to think it, you have to feel it, and you have to act it, and then you can become it. Okay, so if I want to become focused, if I want to become disciplined, I can't just say it. Like some people believe that if you just say an affirmation, it'll become true. That to me is crazy. Like that, I need the science, right? So here's the science behind it. So if you say it every morning in an affirmation, you say it every morning, it keeps it on the top of your mind awareness. Just like with marketing, right? You want to be on the top of mind. So you say it so many times, it's on the top of your mind. You don't just become disciplined and focused, but you become aware of more opportunities to be disciplined and focused. You still have to act it. You have to
You're
make it
just aware.
act it.
It's so split second. I get it. That
Yeah.
makes complete sense. That makes so
Yeah.
much sense.
So if I'm not focused or disciplined and I say it every morning and then all of a sudden I'm at top of mind awareness, I find myself scattered throughout the day. I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm not being focused or disciplined." Then I have to make the action I still have to make the choice to act it out. Okay, now I'm going to be disciplined, now I'm going to be focused. Right? And then you choose to do it, you act it, and then you become it. Right? So it's just repetitive actions with that. So that's the science behind it, right? Like that's how affirmations work. So that's what we do with long affirmations. And then if you watch the video, it'll make sense. You just plug and play, basically. The 4th step is a combination of short affirmation and then visualization. Visualization is one of the best tools out there for quitting drinking, right? Let's say that you quit drinking, you have a big wedding coming up, you have an event, and you don't want to drink, right? You're worried about it. What I have my clients do is visualize themselves at the party or at the event, not drinking, saying no, having a good time. If somebody, and then visualize somebody coming up with a drink, them saying no, things like that. And this is why. So when you visualize something, your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and a visualization. So this is why Michael Jordan, like all these people visualize, right? Because it's training the brain. Right? So like if you visualize something 20 times, if you have a wedding coming up, you visualize it 20 times, when the real thing happens to your brain and nervous system, it's as if it was the 21st time. So you're trained for it. You know how to act. Your nervous system doesn't go into fight or flight because it's been there before with these visualizations, right? And you're able to act a lot smoother. You don't react. You respond. So that's what I do with visualization. And then the 5th step is very simple. Do one thing that you didn't do yesterday. Just do something different, right? Get uncomfortable, basically. But it's awesome, man. Like when you do that every day, it takes about 15, 20 minutes to set it up, and then about 15 minutes a day. But it is very powerful. Like there's neuroscience in every single step of it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think people heard you say that Jay does 2 hours in the morning, and I'm like,
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can get so much out of even 5 minutes, you know.
Oh God,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and because the amount, if
Anything
you
works.
sit and think, if you sat and thought about it, and at the amount of people that have 5 minutes with no kids, no TV, no phone in
Yeah,
their hand, alert, awake, but not listening to music, but not writing, but not doing any of these things. 5 minutes, and you think about it,
yeah,
track it, and it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
People aren't getting 5 minutes
yeah,
of awake, alert time
yeah,
to themselves, to their own thoughts. It's
yeah,
scary.
yeah,
And so, so that was one thing I thought. The second thing I thought was just as much as you talked about the negative self-talk and how that's a cycling lie to yourself,
yeah.
you can almost trick yourself into success
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
opposite version
Oh yeah,
of what you
exactly. That's what you
with the
do.
visualization that you
Yeah.
said, with the speaking what you want. I read a book one time called Hung by the Tongue.
Oh nice.
So
Heard of it.
much. It was like this. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but yeah, tell
Uh,
me.
yeah, it's just a little tiny book. You know, it's like a little pamphlet you put in your pocket.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just all about like speaking what you want and what
Yeah.
you get. But again, it's like, and it was a little heavier on the, speaking what you want. It could happen, but you got to
Like
be there. You got to be
manifestation
available.
stuff.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to be available. You got to be aware. You got to be moving still,
Yeah.
right? But hung by the tongue, it just puts an image to like the reality of it
Yeah.
and how true it is, where it's like you are putting out there through your words
Hmm.
to your own brain what life is and what it should
Yeah.
be and what it's looking like. So,
The
yeah,
first step
that's
of my
interesting.
program is acceptance and awareness, and it's all around what you just said. It's
Yeah,
accepting that you are where you are because of your own self, right? That's a hard thing. And raising awareness around that you do have the power to take it back, right? Like
right.
that you do have the power to. A lot of people think they don't have control over their thoughts, right? And they don't. That's true, but it's also true that they can have control over like their subconscious beliefs, right? Like in the end game, not all of them,
Hmm.
but like the overall like mindset of the subconscious mind. You can. So it's just really interesting. Like I love it, and it's meditation, mindfulness, all of that is just getting like it deserves all of the recognition that it's getting. Like it's
Yeah.
powerful stuff, man. I mean, that's what saved my life. It saved my life 100%. That stuff. So
Love it, man.
yeah,
Well, no, I'm glad we were able to fit that in. I wanted to talk about those things and just kind of what you suggested for people. So I think that's a great take of me. I mean, if you had some things, but what are some takeaways? What are some things that that we maybe haven't touched on as much as
yeah.
you feel we need to touch on? And what are some things? And really, at the end of that, if there's anything that you've been thinking about that we haven't really dove into that you think people need to hear, but then I think secondly. Are you, if there's anything that you are, it sounds like you've done a lot of work here, but like, is there anything that's like you really haven't dove in, that's vulnerable, that's like I think really could help people that we haven't talked about too much on here?
Um,
That and I think more of just those hidden things that people don't hear about, but really they're so common, but
yeah,
nobody ever talks about them, but
yeah,
everyone's got it. And remember it's through some of your clients or through yourself or
yeah.
whatever, maybe, something in that regard. But anything else final that you want to kind of leave with everybody, that we haven't talked about in that world?
Yeah, I think, and I'll just stick to my own kind of like speaking to my own community here. Like if and alter, and then I want to alter it to your community or what I think that is. But if you have a problem like with any bad habit, right? It's going to take some work, right? It's not easy, but understand that you have to break down each habit in particular to that one habit. Okay, so if when you quit drinking, that's not quitting one habit. That's quitting a lot of habits all at once, right?
Hmm.
So in order to understand habits, this is one thing I just want to get across. You have to break down each and every single habit and look at the four steps of it, right? So you have a cue, you have a craving, you have a response, and a reward. And some people talk about three steps, but it doesn't matter either one. And you have to create what's called a pattern interrupt. Okay, so a cue, craving, response, reward. Let's say that I'm driving on the way home, or no, I'm out to dinner at a restaurant, and I see somebody drinking. Okay, that's the cue, right? The craving is I get physical. I get a physical craving. I start overthinking. I maybe start to sweat. The response is I go and order a drink. The reward is I feel less stressed, right? Let's just use this for an example. Now, that's just one habit, right? So you have to break that down into those things. And then you have to create a pattern interrupt for every single one that you want to diminish or replace. You can only create a pattern interrupt in the second and third stage, not the first or the fourth. Okay? So you can't change the cue, right? You can't change what other people do, or you can't control what other people are doing. So the cues are going to happen. You can change the craving, what happens between the craving and the response. You can't change the reward, right? Because it's too late. You're already committed the habit. So it's only, if you want to create a pattern interrupt, you have to do it between 2 and 3. This is really important because there's a lot of misinformation about habits, but you have to break them down you have to break them down step by step. And with every single habit in order to make the difference. And that's why I do my program. It takes 3 weeks. Like we do it for 3 weeks out of the 12 that I do. So, but.
And so I appreciate you going to that. Where can they find you? Do you have a website?
Yeah. It's just alexsgarner.com. So first name, middle initial, and then last name. So alexsgarner.com, we'll put it in the thing. And then, so I'm on TikTok, Facebook, all that stuff, but that's going to be the best way. It's just to check out the website.
Okay. Perfect. Man, I love all the stuff we dove into here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much, and I'm even thinking still about that 2-3 verse 1-4, because the cues are always going to come, right? You can't. That's a nightmare trying to control that.
Yeah.
Like, good luck. Right.
Yeah.
And nobody will ever be able to do that. So yeah, I get it. Focus where you can focus. And dude, I love, you getting on here. I mean, I think this is going to be such a good episode for people to hear. And, I appreciate you doing that. And we'll drop all the show notes,
Okay.
and all the ways that they can connect with you, and drop in we'll figure out a way to get the video and the PDF and stuff out to everyone as well. If you guys were interested in that, I think that would be amazing. And Alex, I appreciate you, helping our community and kind of giving that for us. And man, I love it. And hopefully neither one of us are jumping any buildings anytime soon.
Yes.
But it's fun. It's funny, man.
I can't promise anything.
Back. It's fun to look back, though, right?
Yeah.
And look back and just thank God you're not there anymore, right? And so I'm so proud of you, and appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. And it just one last thing I just want to say quickly. So when you think that you have control over everything, you're actually not in control at all. But when you stop trying to control everything, you end up being most in control. So the biggest thing that I would say is just focus on yourself, what you can control, and try to raise that awareness. That's the last thing I just want to say. But thank you so much. I love it. I love the show, and thank you for having me. And I just wanted to get the message out there that there are other ways to get sober.
For sure, man. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Have a good one. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Austin.